Yeah,
We're done.
all good.
Yeah. Hey everybody, go online students here. If you could, mate, just introduce yourself to everybody. What state you're from, how many properties, your age, and what you're doing for work as well.
Yeah, so I'm Harris. I'm from New South Wales. I am currently 20 years old. I'm in uni for computer science, and I've currently got 5 properties.
How do you balance 5 properties and computer science? Wow.
Yeah, well, it's actually not as much work as you'd think. It's
Mm,
most of the work is in the initial stages, so setting up the property. But then so with 5 properties, I've kind of developed systems that remove me from the business. So I've got, really good cleaners. I've got systems that notify those cleaners once, guest leaves. I've got, a pretty good system for guest messages. So the guest messages are pretty much automated. So it doesn't take a lot of time out of my week. I may be spending 2 to 3 hours a week max on the actual properties. And so
mm,
it kind
mm,
of gives
mm,
me time to focus on my degree as well.
When you first joined the mentorship, when was that? And like, what was going through your mind? Were you hesitant as well?
Yeah, so I joined the mentorship maybe July. Yeah, July last year, August. Yeah, August
Mhm.
last year. Yeah, I mean, with every new venture, it is sort of risky. And I didn't know too much about Airbnb, and so I was taking a leap. So I guess yeah, I was sort of nervous. I remember my first property, I was quite nervous setting it all up because I didn't know if I was gonna get bookings. And you're putting 10, $15,000 down for your first property. And you've kind of got in the back of your mind that I'm committing to a year's worth of rent. And so, you're kind of nervous as to whether or not you're actually going to get bookings or whether you're going to be out for a whole year's worth of rent.
Mm, mm.
Yeah.
What do you think you've kind of done? You just trusted the process, trusted your mentor?
Yeah, yeah, just trust the process. Trust the fact that the people that are mentoring you know what they're doing. Like our mentors have what, 40 odd properties. I think they're on 50 now.
Mm,
So they've obviously got a system that works. It's sort of the analogy that I like is when you go to a restaurant and you order food, even if the food takes like 15, 20, 30 minutes, you don't get nervous that the food's not going to come and you're going to get scammed because you're trusting the process. You know the food's going to come at some point. And so
mm,
it's very similar to that where it's like if you just follow the system and you put in the work, that's the other thing of like the system doesn't work itself. You have to work the system. And so if you work the system, you do everything you need to do, you're going to get a property. And then
mm,
you follow the system of setting up the property, you follow the
mm,
revenue management system. So everything's already there for you. You just have to, do it.
mm. Yeah, really good. What would you say yours initial kind of work, maybe hours that you put in compared to like maybe now?
Initially, well, when you're first setting up the property, it's pretty intense, right? So you want to do it as quick
Mm,
as possible because you don't want to waste time. And
mm,
so I was spending maybe eight hours 8 hours a day for like 3 days to just set it up. So that's the initial stage. But once it's set up, it's pretty automated. With
mm,
my first property, I took a little bit of time to like get the cleaning systems right, that sort of stuff. And then guest messages. Back then, I don't think my guest messages were automated, so I had to spend some time doing that.
mm.
But even back then, once I had the property set up, it was maybe like 2, 3 hours a week as well. But now with all 5 properties, it's 2, 3 hours a week.
Yeah, yeah, nice. When you were getting that first property, calling those agents, you reckon that wasn't for the, I guess, weak-minded? Like, was it a struggle? How long was that process?
I mean, it's definitely a struggle, right? It's not a get quick rich scheme. Like, there's definitely a lot of work involved. The hardest part is getting your first property because it's what you're asking is sort of strange, right? You're asking a landlord to trust you into short-term renting their property so that you can make profit off of it. And so it's a strange ask, and especially if you've got no sort of other properties, you've got no track record, and also if you're young like me, so I was 19 when I started. So it's very strange for a 19-year-old to be asking these things. And so
Mm,
it's definitely a struggle. But again, it's just volume, right? It's do so much volume, luck doesn't matter. And so if you do enough volume, if you're calling, 50 people a day, like at some point you're going to get a property. And so, yeah, to answer your question, it is sort of intense. You have to call a lot of people to get your first property. But once you get your first two or three, after I got my first property, my agent trusted me. He knew that I took care of the property. He knew I pay rent on time. And so I was just, he would hand properties off to me.
Mm, mm.
Yeah.
Yeah, man, spot on. Actually, spot on. And then when it came to, I guess, the mentorship side, so like, how did you find kind of the school modules, and how did you find that community as well? And even me as well
Um,
as a mentor on the side.
yeah, yeah. So the actual school modules, they're pretty good because they get all the information that you need and they put them in one place, and there's no additional stuff, right? So I guess you could go onto YouTube and just search up a bunch of tutorials. The only issue with that is it's going to be like an 8 hour tutorial, but like half of it is useless, so you're just wasting your time. And then you're gonna have to juggle between two or three tutorials on YouTube. So with the modules, the main thing is it's all centralized, it's all in one location, and you're only getting what you need. You're not getting some module on American strata laws, for example. And then in terms of the community is pretty helpful. Whenever I have an issue, I just throw a question in, and it usually gets answered. By other people, by the mentors, and like there's quite a lot of people that've got a good amount of properties, so people know what they're doing inside the community, and so yeah, it's
Mm.
pretty good.
Yeah, good man. Would you know maybe one of your biggest bookings that you've gotten, maybe on top of your head as well?
One of my biggest I think it would probably be like a New Year's Eve 5 day booking. That that's probably like 7,000, something like that.
Oof. Yeah, good
Yeah,
margins.
yeah.
Um, and then what about hospitality wise? Because this is such a huge hospitality business. We're
Yeah.
looking after guests and everything. How did you prioritize, I guess, whole kind of guest experience and like, resolving conflict as quick as possible as well? Because it's not, fairies in Wonderland, right?
Yeah. So yeah, I guess sort of the conflicts that you get with guests, that sort of stuff, is the more difficult part of the business. Hospitality is a difficult industry, but I think if you've got good systems, you're doing yourself a favor. So for example, with your properties, you want to be taking the ID of everyone that comes in. You want to be vetting them. If they've got less than like 4.5 stars, you want to be careful around those guests. You want to impose, good rules around your properties. So all of those things contribute to ensuring that you get good guests inside of your property. Um, with the occasional guest, you'll get some problems. So I guess it goes back to the same thing, just having the correct systems to address those issues. Like, one of the issues we recently had was we had a guest, they wanted to get a refund because, his wife didn't like it, which isn't, the best reason. And as a host, you go like, I've got like this 5 day booking and he wants to cancel one day in. Like I don't know if I'm gonna get another booking. So I'm, losing out like 4 days worth of rent. But you go back to the systems that you have, you liaise with the mentors, you ask them how, because if there's an issue you have, someone in the community has dealt with it. And usually, you can just put in the community and someone will answer and say, this is how I dealt with it. This is what the best way to deal with it is. And this is how you should deal with it.
Mm, mm.
Yeah.
Yeah, spot on there. And what would you say are probably your future kind of business goals, maybe this year, next year as well?
I think just get more properties, I guess. That's
Mm,
probably sort of the main business goal. Get more properties, improve current standards, improve the cleanliness of the properties that I have, make it more comfortable for current future guests.
yeah, yeah. What do you think drove that success a lot for you, or maybe in general? Do you think it's actually like self-growing and experience and picking up these skills as you go, or what do you say?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of people, what they do is they'll just sit down and they're stuck in this paralysis where all they're doing is they're just convincing themselves that they need to learn as much as they can before they execute. That's just productive procrastination. It's just a waste of time. What you really should be doing is once you know how to do it, maybe like 60% of the way, just go ahead and do it, right? especially if you're younger, because you do have a bigger appetite for risk. But yeah, so you go ahead, just do it. You'll learn a lot more, trialing and erroring your first property than by consuming hours and hours of content for absolutely no reason. So yeah, I
Mm,
think
mm,
action is definitely the best catalyst for learning in any industry, but specifically this industry.
yeah, especially like getting into the world of business, right? Getting that kind of leap for taking that bit of risk for yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right, brother. Last question for you. So imagine someone wants to join the mentorship, but they're quite hesitant for whatever reason, and they've got the money. What would you probably say to them?
Just do it. Just do it.
Yeah.
Scared, like you're gonna be nervous, right?
Mm, mm,
There's no reality where you're not nervous. Because you are putting a significant amount of money down and you're taking a route that's a little risky, right? Um, but risk pays, and it's not an uneducated risk, right? Like you've got the support, you've got a system that works and that's worked over and over and over and over again, right? Like so many success stories, right? Specifically with like Airbnb arbitrage. And so you just gotta, I mean, it's such a cliche, but it's a cliche because it works, right? And so just go ahead and do it. If you've got the money, just throw it in.
mm, mm.
Do your diligence. But once you're just commit to it.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
man. Exactly what I did too as well. But yeah,
Yeah.
spot on, man. Uh, anything else you want to add to the community or you want to share?
No, I think that's all I've needed to say.
Yeah, man, really helpful, really insightful as well. That's all for today. Thank you for your time, my friend.
Thank you, bro.
All good, brother. If you need anything, just let
Oh,
me know.
sure thing. I'll see you.
See ya.
Bye.